Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yours.
From esports, trying to find an angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll! See White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Beast Mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Santi's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Saga is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick onto Leaky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The fourth one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the other half of the final day here in CGL Season 14. The grand finals continue here in the EU GM tier between Special Forces and the Godstack. 2 incredible teams going at it to win the EU GM tier. Megalast, you ready to get this one rolling?
Absolutely. You know, CGL season 14 feels like just yesterday but that yesterday was, I don't even know, August, September at this point. The months are blurring together. It has been a long time coming, but finally, like you said, grand finals day is upon us here. It makes you a little sad, makes you think, oh, you know, CGL, the season's ending, but in case you needed more CGL action, you don't have to worry, you don't have to fret. We're going to have more of it coming up with our GOATS tournament. You know, we run them every now and then. We like to say that GOATS is a pretty fun mode. And look, we're gonna have South America brackets for the first time in our GOATS tournament. That's fun, that's hype. Getting to compete for that prize pool, you know, tap in, get your favorite team members, get some GOATS going, have a good time.
Yeah, and I mean it's just cool that South America, they're not just coming in for that Ghost tournament, but season 15 as well. So that's really, really exciting. But this is not the only thing going on today. You know, Mega, this is a very, very big day for CGL. There's going to be, not in this game specifically, but $6,000 dispersed between 6 teams here in this final day of CGL Season 14. 4 grand finals happening today. 3 of them in the open tiers. Ure Mirai versus 0907 on the A stream. Of course, this game coming up, Special Forces, the God Stack going at it here. And then tonight on the NA side, it's going to be BSC Bobcats versus Tanuki in the PC open tier. And then console open tier grand finals will be the back-to-back champions Short Bus going up against YE Snowfall. So a lot of action happening today on this, the final one of the season.
Yeah, everybody able to get together to plan themselves out. So instead of stretching it out, we could end season 14 with a bang, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that here. Like you said, we're here in EUGM getting to focus back down on this matchup. We have Special Forces going up against Godstack. Fun fact, this bracket, it did start out with these two teams meeting each other very early on. Special Forces took that win in a dominant 3-0 fashion, as you see on your screen. Godstack then decided, you know what, we're just incapable of dropping a map, and they haven't since. Special Forces did get to cruise through winners final though to get here. So now meeting again, Godstack maybe a little bit reinvigorated, little bit of momentum behind them, realizing the anger and passion they have to get their revenge against a Special Forces squad who's just vying for their crown.
Yeah, I mean, 4 times it would seem that these two teams have met this season. Once in the regular season, where, the Godstack got the better of that matchup, but the other 3 games in both of these tournaments in the mid-season as well, Special Forces has gotten the better of this matchup. They have looked nigh unstoppable, especially in the first half of the season. Special Forces was considered one of, if not the best teams, up until they lost in the mid-season tournament to Team EXE, who you see down there did get walloped by the Godstack in lower round 1. But this bracket, if you had watched the rest of the season and saw how it all progressed, the Godstack are actually, they have been underdogs for most of this tournament. Like they got, pretty well handed it to them by Special Forces in that midseason tournament. They had an average regular season. They went 6-2, which is, not bad. But now, I mean, they have made a run through this bracket, lower or upper, does not matter. They find themselves in the grand finals, and now they've got a chance to cement themselves as the best team in this GM tier.
Exactly, and that's all it's about at the end of the day. All of it has built up to this moment between these squads here. I think we might as well give you an in-depth look at who you're seeing on your screens, just in case maybe you haven't been able to pay attention so much CGL. But taking a look at Special Forces first, again, this is a squad that they've sort of been on the rise, getting better and better, finally emerging as the dominant force here. You have Zaber, Carlos on that DPS line. Carlos, that Junkrat, it's not a mirage. It will be seen in this game. I pinky promise you that. Sweeney, of course, on the tank, and then Tark and Wilson on this support line. I mean, they do a little bit of unorthodox things, but overall, they still make it work for them, and it makes them look so damn strong every time they come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's way more important than in these higher tiers. The GM tier very close to the open tier, but still in a lower level where if you can run something confidently that you're comfortable on, you can find a lot more value than if you were just to ham the meta and try and force that. But now for the other side, the challengers coming through the lower bracket after losing in round number 1 to Special Forces. It is the Godstack, Widowblade, Psychoka on the DPS, Ikaj on the tank, and Conan MCG in that backline. I mean, a very good run for them, but their last match happened almost 2 weeks ago now. And that was when we were still in the midst of the Malga debacle meta, right? The great equalizer, as I call it, right? Now the game is a little bit different. I mean, it hasn't changed a whole lot numbers wise, but the meta has shifted towards that Orisa, away from that Malga that has allowed these lower teams in the standings to get the big boost that they needed late in the season. And now the Godstack have a big thing ahead of them to take down Special Forces and do it how they want to do it. Lijiang Tower for map number 1, as is the selection from Special Forces.
And it's Lijiang Tower, right? We could hammer this home. We always do. It's picked. It's beloved for a reason. But I think it's going to be a very interesting telltale sign of how the series is going to go, right? Fun fact: it's an NA server. I know that I can blame Mara. It's always Mara that ends up doing that. But yeah, so while that gets settled, Lijiang Tower, it's comfort, and as well as it's going to be very telling, right? Because like we said, Special Forces, they like to run off-meta stuff. We know that Junkrat likes to come out as often as it can, and it's going to show how Godstack really is prepared for it, right? Whether they've just been scrimming meta, whether they've been in preparation of what they know Special Forces like to run. It'll be a very good indicator. Like, if Special Forces is able to just run away with this map, it's not going to look good for Godstack for the rest of the series already. And they're not capable of at least making it a contest on, you know, what chaotic comps that we're going to see. But ultimately, the only thing that we can do is time will tell.
Okay, so the Godstack are very, very willing to run the meta. I don't know what I would call this Special Forces composition. I will say, even with the Sigma, this is still going to be a very, very interesting comp for them. I will say that the Junkrat is very, very good here on Control Center. A lot of, you know, long, tight corridors to spam with those Junkrat grenades. So Ikaj and the rest of the Godstack will have a large fight ahead of them trying to deal with that and are already taking so much damage. Tom Nikita going for a walk over on the coast, headed up to that, you know, small high ground to try and get the angle on the left side. Ikaj looking for some positioning on the point, but just getting spammed out from all directions right now. And Tom Nikita will be the first to fall here, and without that Ash providing pressure, it's going to be very difficult for the Godstack to win out here, but they're not going to give it up easily here. Khan able to avoid the dash from Zaber and will end up going down. There is that Genji, and even without Ton Mikita, Godstack able to come out and win this first fight.
Yeah, I mean, even without the Ash, like you said, I thought that that was going to be sort of a done deal when Zaber getting that kill. But, you know, that's the great thing about this Orisa with the Brig Juno, is that you have such insane survivability. So Special Forces still had to look for more in that fight when they probably already thought they had it won. Now, heading into the next fight here, no ultimates online just yet. These DPS are edging the closest out of anyone here. But with how Special Forces is playing, I'll be interested to see how Psychoka tries to get value with this Blizzard as they're all split up.
Carlos continuing to spam this Riptire, ready to go. Could be a nightmare. There's nothing to really mitigate that damage. Don Mikita on the off angle, trying to go up against Zaber on the coast, but will be Riptire out from Carlos. Will claim 2. Still, though, we've seen what the Godstack can do down a player. Sweeney is frozen up here, will end up falling, so it is a 2-for-2 trade here, and Ikaj will track down Carlos, and now it's just Zaber who's returned from spawn.
Yeah, but still, this entire time, Godstack is in control here. Psychoka having the cryo just to be able to get some healing, some survivability here, and as the reinforcements come through, Special Forces now have to wait to take another fight. They have some good tools to do it, but if they have to overlap, I'd say anything more than 2 of these ultimates with what they have online, it's going to be an overinvestment, even if they win.
Here is the rally from Octo. Dragon Blade pulled by Zaber. Will go in on to Ton Mikita. Khan and Ton are both out of this fight. The Gravitic Flux going to claim Octo on the point. Psychoka trying to keep it rolling, as well as Ikaj. But eventually this will run out. Will be a flip here for Special Forces.
Yeah, and luckily they didn't have to overinvest like I was worried about. Just the Gravitic Flux and the Blade in response to a pretty good ult invest from Godstack here, so they actually come out the other side of it looking pretty okay. Now, with a Captive Sun online here, you know, as long as it's not eaten by the Orisa Spear Spin, this can do some devastating damage on a comp that wants to stay stacked on top of each other.
Alright. Well, here is the Captive Sun. Ikaj, no Spear Spin to eat that up, but nobody going to be claimed by the ultimate, but the damage has been done. 3 have fallen for the Godstack, and it will be Special Forces moving across that 30% mark.
Yep, very good. Very, you know, sort of simple fight, right? You go in, use Captive Sun, clean it up. Nothing fancy, just exactly textbook Overwatch, what you want to see. Now, heading into the next one, it gets a little bit interesting. You have this sound barrier, but nothing really that you need to live through super hard. So it'll be interesting to see how they choose to commit it, and it seems like early.
Here's Bob coming in. Sound barrier is the answer, but Bob is going to put that to a very swift stop in the backline. Ikaj trying to continue this as the Riptire is invested here. Almost will be detonated before finding anything, but the Godstack going to be able to take here, and 90% now for them.
Yeah, being able to get that flip is absolutely massive here, as well as these late picks. I mean, Godzak can set themselves up in a beautiful position to win the round.
Wilson Smokes dead, Carlos dead, Tomikita claiming the final blow onto both of them. Gravitic Flux in, looking for a target. The spear will not connect, but even with that damage from the Flux, will not be enough. Wilson Smokes going to keep it rolling in overtime, but nobody else can get even close to touching here as this Lucio falls.
Yep. And so now that will be Godzak taking away this first round, and it seems like they've already come up with some solid answers, right? Not letting Special Forces play this poke style, being able to stay on stacked on top of each other, provide this healing to everybody, and keep everybody sustained throughout the fight is looking good for Godzak so far. Now that we're heading to a little bit less of a brawl point, though, we're heading outside to Garden. We'll have to see if they find that same level of success with this composition. Purely because, you know, their rotations are going to have to be careful, especially if they attempt to cross this bridge, right? There's so much, you know, worry of a Lucio or Wrecking Ball boop coming through. But then if you go through the White Room, maybe a little bit more safer from the environmental side, you have to worry about Carlos with these Junkrat mines just spamming you out with damage.
All right, well, here we go. Garden, one booped off. The shield bash came through to keep Octo up there, but damage been done. Ikaj Mikita claimed by a couple of these players on Special Forces, and now it will be Special Forces that are able to take this first fight. Swiney does end up going down, so now the aggression actually going to come back through as they're going to try and find this Lucio. Can they take down Wilson? The answer appears to be no, and they will have to play it safe.
I mean, still, having this pick on the ball is amazing, but they have to capitalize on it soon, otherwise that will be back, and it seems like they've done just that.
Yeah, Octo and Ikaj coming in here. Wilson ending up getting tracked down eventually here. Ikaj coming in. It's just a stall here for Swiney, who will end up falling in the end, and Zaber going to meet the same fate now. The God Stack taking over.
And again, you know, Swiney just ends up going in a little too far there on the Wrecking Ball. That's one of the things with Wrecking Ball. You have to be careful of how extended you truly get in these engagements. Being a little bit more careful is going to be the name of the game. Now you're seeing it again, having to rope all the way through the back line. You're having this Tracer pretty much mark you consistently because, you know, there's nobody else for the Tracer to mark or follow.
Whoa. Okay, Wilson found out early, and Carlos was on the point, able to get those mines to get over the gap. But with Swiney dead, the Godstack are very, very confident in their ability to win this game right now, and you can see it in their gameplay.
I mean, more than confident, right? I mean, they're handling this in the best way possible. Swiney now has to switch over to the Sigma just to try to be able to group up with the rest of the team. The Wrecking Ball approach clearly not working out for them, but they're pushing into 5 ultimates now for Godstack. I mean, this is Godstack's fight to lose.
With that orbital raise down, that pulse bomb going to find only the pylon, but Octo getting a little bit too overextended there. Going in here with the jump, as Octo's still the only, okay. Yeah, the rest of the team will follow their Brig, and just a massive overextension for the Godstack.
Massive overextension. In a fight, again, they had everything that they should have won it, and they just ultimately don't, and they give Special Forces a beautiful opportunity, right? Because you just traded out your Pulse Bomb and your Orbital Ray for absolutely nothing on the side of Special Forces, so they now have tons of tools to slowly win fight after fight here to try to retake that percentage.
Well, there is the Captive Sun. It will get let loose, and immediately they turn away, not even going to try to follow up on it. The Deadeye gonna pop Carlos in the mouth, and now Ikaj pushing back this Sigma, getting rid of the accretion, which could have been annoying. And as the rest of the blue team falls, the Godstack will take back over.
And being able to take over like that, again, it costs you everything, but, you know, Special Forces may be making a mistake, only thinking they needed the Captive Sun here. So now, while it is a 99 fight, Special Forces do have a massive advantage. Every single ultimate besides that Captive Sun. Meanwhile, Godstack has absolutely nothing. So for Godstack to find a win in this fight, it would come off a raw pick potential.
Oh, and very, very close there for Psychoka trying to take down that Lucio. Now the Riptire looking for a target. Psychoka knows where this Junkrat is at, and the Riptire are going to try and find it. Does end up tracking down Psychoka. Still 3 ultimates in the hands of Special Forces. They do end up getting the flip here as the sound barrier comes down. Kaj getting very, very close to the Terra Surge as well. They do have some ultimates coming up here for the God Stack, but they're going to lose this fight out. They did get out a lot of investment from the Special Forces, though.
Yeah, a lot of that investment, so now it is just the gravitic flux here. But again, that can be a massive fight winner in and of itself. Depending on how long it also takes Godstack to rotate, it will be a 99-99 final fight situation here. So if Special Forces can wait it out and find at least one with the gravitic flux, this could be their opening to take the round.
Well, here is the Flux. Will only pick up the Brig. Octo will live. Ton Mikita in trade for Wilson, and Tarka is an incredible fight for the God Stack. That grass will claim you nothing, Swiney, and it will be the God Stack taking map number 1. There will be some staggers in here late. Captain Sun, everything trying to keep this alive, but will not be in the cards for the Special Forces. The God Stack already off to a better start than they had in their first round matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, they clearly have taken these few weeks, because like we said, it's been a while since either of these teams we've seen them play, but they've clearly been scrimming. They've clearly been able to lock in on this very unique style that Special Forces play, and it's a very different ball game now, because it's Special Forces the ones who find themselves on the back foot, unable to come up with the answers that they may be seeking. So heading into the next map pick, which is again going to be Special Forces pick, you know, they have to start thinking a little bit more creatively, right? They probably have to, you know, look towards something to give them an opening. They have everything besides control open to them. With these special comps that they like to run, make it harder for the Orisa to find value. Maybe even somewhere that you can take advantage of high grounds and things like that would be sort of my go-to, but there's got to be some level of that adaptation on Special Forces, because right now, Godstack, they came into it, they did their homework, and they've got you figured out.
Yeah, and to that end, it is worth saying that, like, there is an inherent value in running stuff consistently that is not meta. But eventually, because like I said, Godstack has played Special Forces 3 other times this season, right? They have done this 3 other times. This 4th time, I mean, they look like they understand it, right? It is eventually, if you never change anything up in Special Forces, they have these pocket picks that they like to play. Eventually, if you do not change it up, you're going to get figured out. And it's like you said, the Godstack have done that homework. They have played these games. They have watched the film. They know what's coming. They're prepared for what is coming. And Special Forces now, yeah, I fully agree. They have to adapt, or they have to play smarter, because they are just getting the runaround by this more meta composition that the God Stack is playing with the Brig Juno, which is still the premier backline in Overwatch right now, with the Orisa, who is the best tank in the game right now with that backline. It's not going to be easy to beat this composition on a non-meta comp, right? Because the Orisa comp, it has so much staying power. It lives for so long that in the Sigma, as long as you're able to keep your distance, it should work, which is, you know, probably the plan here for the for Special Forces coming in to this this second map. You're gonna need to find some way to break through this line.
Yeah, but like you said, this next map, they want to keep the distance, and this is probably the best one to do it on. It is Havana coming through here. This is the Sigma map of old, right? Everybody knows and loves the lovely Sigma setup that we have. But it's a little bit interesting, right? Because normally when you think of Havana, you do think of like those hard hit scam pressures, the Widowmaker, the Ashe, the Sojourn, all coming in, being able to do massive amounts of damage. I mean, Fletch, you and I got treated to that amazingly at the hands of Smelvin Industries yesterday with what you could do with some good hit scan players on this map. But when I think of Special Forces, I don't think of hit scan, right? I mean, we know that they have a lovely Junkrat player. Then, we were running Genji for most of the last round. So leaning into a hit scan, like, I understand it benefits the Sigma, but leaning into a hit scan map like this, it's going to be interesting how they truly want to execute this.
I with this map selection, do not think Special Forces are thinking about hit scan. They want to run the Sigma, and I think that is probably the extent of that. As I say that, though, we do have a bit of a role swap here for the side of Special Forces. Tark going over to the DPS, Carlos on to the support. So, I mean, that probably tells me that, hey, yeah, we're going to try and run a hit scan. Swiney's still going to be more than comfortable on the Sigma, right? More than likely. But Tark coming into this lineup as a DPS now makes me think that the adaptations that they've got for Havana have got Tark playing some kind of hit scan, whether it's the Ashe, Widowmaker, Cassidy, whatever. Something is honestly better than nothing when it comes to running a hit scan with this Sigma comp.
See, I'm thinking of the other side of this coin, Fletch, because it's like, okay, put somebody who can aim on hit scan, makes sense. What is a Junkrat OTP gonna do on support? Unless there's you want to say a support with grenades was about to be what I say. Baptista's right there. If you're feeling frisky to running the BAP Zen backline that some escort maps become home to. This is the other
How about a Moira?
I was gonna say, if you need somebody who is a little bit, I don't want to say lower skill because that sounds mean.
Easier.
So somebody who you could hand your little cousin the controller and say, here, play a round for me on support. Moira would probably be the one, right? Chuck damage orbs, just heal people with your healing. I almost called it powder. I guess it's not powder, it's more of like a spray, but just being able to heal people, coalescence every single fight because you build it so dang quickly. But on the other side, right, Godstack, very interestingly, they're going to choose to opt into the Sigma Mirror, but it's a little bit of a different look, having to know that there's a lurking Bastion. Fletch, I don't know. This is you. You got it.
Yeah, this is not exactly what I expected, as Tark is just waiting to be activated here. Get that word to go, and they will go. Still waiting. Now going to drop down into the wheels form and going to be able to explode. Not going to find exactly what they were hoping for in the backline. There is Tark as Con tracks down that Bastion final blow, and now without the Bastion, that's a hell of a lot of damage gone for the Special Forces, and now all of their healing is as well.
And yeah, with the Tracer cleanup here, it just sort of quickly ends. Like the Bastion, I thought it was interesting. I was like, okay, we're gonna hold frontline. To lurk like that on Bastion, you have it works for one fight only, and you get one.
Gotta find
pick
something.
out of it. Yeah, and just not getting a pick means that you've now pretty much given up a majority of your hold on A. With Zaber going back over to the Genji as well, you've given up in this hit scan duel. Granted, the only other hit scan presence is a Soldier 76 with Tomikida, so I'm not too worried about that, but it's just overall it's going to be a very chaotic fight, I feel.
Like Coca dropping the pulse bomb there, not going to find a connection. Tark not really finding anybody to lay into there. Will end up going down here for a second fight in a row. They have fallen first. Gravitic Flux in the hands of Swiney, and they just walk out of it because they're very lucky that this Sigma does end up going down. Zaber will meet the same fate as these supports try to escape. I mean, as I say that, Con, Psychoka, and Octo do not want to let this one go, but eventually they're going to opt to have to with that Bastion returning.
I mean, yeah, but just wait for your respawns, right? It makes sense for the attackers. Take your time. You still got plenty of it in the bank to work with. And look at this, you're already back in.
Yeah. Tark already dead again, and the Amp Matrix good for a couple of kills there. And now it's just up to this Genji, and Tark is, the experiment is over. It's a Cassidy now for Tark for Special Forces.
But again, right? Like we're so focused on Tark because of the Bastion pick. Carlos has been out of position in a lot of these fights, and it comes with one of those things of you truly do have to position differently depending on what role you are on. Now it's just massive staggers coming through here as, Godstack, they just want to be able to get some space going. Tons of ultimates to their name, only having to invest that amplification matrix means that, they can throw anything into these next fights to guarantee a win here. As Special Forces, they're only holding on to the coalescence.
All right. Need something here. Pulse bomb. Oh, what a big one from Psychoka. Handing it to Tark. I have nothing else to say here about that. Ikaj with the Gravitic Flux going to drop down here. As Wilson will fall also. Carlos trying to find something here with this grasp, but nothing is being given by the Godstack right now, and Swiney is just under constant duress.
Yeah, now trying to pop that Coalescence to try to potentially get aggressive here, but it's going to be incredibly difficult. They're still stuck in this room, and now Sound Barrier even invested means that Ekash could just flux.
Yeah, Ekash going to be more than happy to let this one rip eventually. Carlos will be good. Okay, so, I mean, Special Forces are coming back into this fight. They are good for a couple here. Gravitic Flux in the hands of Ekash. Swiney in the sky. Rock will not connect. Zaber going to pull the Dragon Blade. Going to be good for one. Ekash does end up falling in that backline eventually. 2.5 minutes now.
Yeah, and I think that was a massive positioning mistake that came out of Ekash there. Just simply tried to flip the map, but single-handedly on Sigma. Like, that's just never going to work out in the way that you think it will. Now, over to the Winston. It is more favorable here on second point to try to... Oh, no. Oh, no. No, you get... Oh, go back to card. Nobody turned. Please.
Well, the dive does end up coming through, so, I mean, there's another Pulse Bomb there from Psychoka. Does end up getting tracked down, though. The Gravitic Flux going wide again for Swiney. The Tactical Visor good for a couple. Tomiki cleans up a third, and you don't need no damn C9 if you've got a Soldier 76 killing everybody in the backline constantly.
Yeah, but I mean, how much longer is the Soldier 76 going to work out for you, right? I mean, now you're working with extremely long ranges as well as a dive comp, and yeah, that's going to be Tomikita going over to the Widowmaker now. But against Special Forces, where, you know, your best hit scan potential is going to be the Cassidy, right? As long as this Widow can start clicking heads, it really can become a problem if no one's able to mirror.
Alright, well, Ikaj on this Winston looking for somebody to jump on, and sees a Genji through the chimney, a bit of a sniper monkey to try and clean that up, but the healing does come through for Zaber. Dive onto these supports and the Cassidy. Ikaj almost has the Primal Rage, but able to escape alive, and Tark really thought that they had that skull going, and unfortunately they just jump out of the way of the Deadeye. The Coalescence does help to take down Psychoka as Saber cleans that kill up themselves. Shot will not connect onto Lucio, but the Godstack are, they're just pushing the cart for free right now, taking all the space they can without the worries.
I mean, this is like kind of devolved into chaos at this point, right? Both teams are just sort of chucking themselves in with half-hearted dives. I think there needs to be a full-scale reset, especially for the attackers here. You know, get everybody back, start actually thinking, formulate your plans once again here, otherwise the defense is going to get more and more momentum. Special Forces, though, their defense, like I said, looking good. Look at that, another pick going their way.
There's Primal Rage in here from the side of the Godstack. Ikaj will be able to slide away. 93 HP on that Primal Rage is nothing to sneeze at. Able to survive. Sound Barrier down for Wilson, but that is just ripped to bits by the hack, and Psychoka and Sonmiki to come together for the kill onto the Wrecking Ball, and now looking very poised to take this map in its entirety. Dragon Blade is out. They don't give a damn, but Khan has just shut that down in earnest.
Oh, I feel like that's happened to Zaber a few times now, and now the Kirikyo just getting aggressive here. The defense, like I said, they have to establish a dive or something, and they're just not, they're just so split up. Everybody's doing their own thing.
Swiney is hacked here, so a little bit of a damage boost for Tonmiki for a little while. They can hack them again should they so choose. There's the Pulse Bomb. Swiney 100 HP, gonna pop the Minefield, and that will come up here. Not going to go down before that can be activated. Ikaj trying to keep it going, but Carlos tracked down underground. Psychoka has absolutely come to play on this Tracer. A hat trick for Psychoka in this fight. Cone cleaning up Tark, and now it is all up to Swiney to keep this touch alive. Coalescence in from Carlos will mean nothing. 19 seconds on the clock for the Godstack, but it's not an easy map to complete at all.
I really wish we had replays because I'm just gonna be so honest. It looked like Carlos was trying to like break his own team's minds as Moira there. Surely he was just looking for somebody to get some damage on, but like it looked like he was trying to get the mines and not realizing they were his. Oh, that is a golden moment right there. But yeah, I mean, special forces, like I said, they're acting great as 5 individual agents when they're able to sort of force Godstack into these chaotic situations where it breaks down into a bunch of 1v1 fights. They could take them there every single day of the week, but you know, the rest of Godstack, you know, when they take their time, actually set up their fight, whether it's on the dive or, you know, these other poke compositions they were running at the start of the map, ultimately they just look better because they took their time, very methodical approaches, they set up what they wanted to do, and they executed. That's sort of the name of the game with Overwatch. And, you know, Special Forces, if they need to force the chaos in order to make this a little bit more even, then they truly have to find ways to make it chaotic without just random picks and random silly heroes.
Okay, yeah. I was really hoping that the Roadhog would come in. I thought that would be really funny. No. But Tark on the Torbjorn could change this up a little bit. Psychoka not going to be as patient as Tark was initially on their attack. Now, the God Stack looking for something. Psychoka hears that Torbjorn doesn't want to get caught out by... I guess it's Swiney who has the turret capabilities there. Finding Psychoka before anything can happen, but Ton Mikita has killed 2 for free.
I mean, yeah, just blink and you miss it. The kills come through here from Tomikita, and you know, now having to reestablish yourself. Like, look at this. They've kind of like flipped the map. Like the Special Forces, or no, Special Forces are attacking. What am I on about? The icon tricked me. But yeah, so just moving forward here now. If you're actually able to set up this Widowmaker and Torbjorn, I mean, it's going to look towards a very interesting fight.
That turret annoying as all get out for Psychoka. Swiney finding some spam damage, and Ikaj will get taken down early. Zaber meeting the same fate as their tank. Now it has to be these DPS to make the plays here for the God Stack. Tom Mikita falls, but not before Tark does as well. This turret in the backline still just getting free damage. It's just Khan left, and Psychoka just gonna bail on the fight.
Special Forces, I said it. They needed to force chaos, and chaos incarnate is occurring here, and it's making them look so damn good. That late kill on the Psychoka means that a lot of this early high ground is going to have to be given up, and Godstack, you know, on their defense now to try to re-engage, they're going to have to fight for every single inch of the space to be held. Meanwhile, you know, again, Special Forces, they're stacking ultimates. They're going to have a coalescence. They can fire off into the Gravitic Flux as well here. I mean, it's really looking good for them right now.
Psychoka on the Hanzo now. Opting for a little bit more of a long-range approach, I assume. Gonna climb up the top of these silos if they can, I guess. Zaber on the off angle now. Oh, maybe not an off angle, but still a headshot for this Widowmaker. And now without Octo, I mean, a lot of the long-range poke damage from the supports not in. Now Gravitic Flux in from Ikash, immediately canceled by Swiney. And it will be Psychoka outside the point with a kill, but that's not going to be enough to keep the God Stack in.
Yeah, I'm not understanding what Godstack are doing. It's literally like they heard what Special Forces needed to win, and they said, okay, we'll play the chaotic nonsense style that they need to make this a closer match. I mean, it seems so unbelievably foolish. So now, Special Forces, I mean, they have every tool needed if they want to invest to just cap this point.
Deadeye from Ton Mikita just canceled by a well-placed headshot from Zaber. Ikaj has nothing in the way to mitigate damage anymore. Ends up going down, and Psychoka trying to duel a Widowmaker, but that just doesn't work when, you know, one's hit scan, one's not.
And they got, like you said, the Deadeye ends up coming up with nothing. The Amplification Matrix came out. Like, there was actually such a good investment from Godstack that ultimately comes up with nothing. I mean, it feels like we've regressed, right? Like Godsmack just looked so damn good at the end of their attack. They were like, okay, they've got it. Nothing could stop them now, but they seem to just be stopping themselves with this chaotic, nonsensical gameplay.
And Psychoka, again, trying to face tank a Widowmaker, and that just does not work when you're on Hanzo. And now gonna go over to the Tracer. That fight ended as soon as Psychoka died. And it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, Tomikita dies. Like, look at this. The payload's moving the whole time, so now you're going to be in that final fight territory. You're going to have a Molten Core to make it impossible to touch the payload, as well as a Coalescence as well, to try to keep everybody healthy. You are missing Wilson to start, though.
I mean, but Akaj is going to fall over dead. Everybody is just dead for Special Forces, and as good as a 19-second time bank is, 3.5 minutes, looking a little bit cleaner, potentially.
It's definitely looking cleaner here. They're going to come out and touch, but again, they have wall hacks. The Molten Core is now going to come out. Anybody who wants to get some lava on their feet definitely will here, and it's just going to make it impossible. Yeah, this should be the cap.
Yeah. 3 minutes on the clock for Special Forces. I can't exactly call it clean, but that was their win con, right? Special Forces, they just kind of do stuff. I can't exactly tell you what they did right and what they did wrong, other than it worked, I guess. The God Stack just couldn't keep up with the gameplay there. I'm at a loss right now, I'll be honest with you.
I mean, Godstack let themselves get snowballed. There's no other words for it, right? I mean, we talked about how, you know, it was important for them to take time, set up their fights, and execute properly, right? That's where they've been striving and getting ahead of this Special Forces squad. When you get down into the nitty-gritty, the chaotic fights, that's when, you know, things are going Special Forces' way, because this is just the natural element they play in, chaos. So it's absolutely, you know, not what you want to be seeing. Now, like you said, only a minute to work with for Godstack here. They at least have that minute, so if they can break out of spawn, any meterage is going to be good. But you're realistically going to need to get at least beyond point A with how much time Special Forces have in the bank to give yourself a decent shot of taking this map.
Alright. Need something big from this attack from the Godstack if they want to hope to extend their lead. Otherwise, Special Forces will even it up here on Havana. Coming out with this rush comp, we'll see what they can do. Psychoka on the off angle, sending a couple icicles the way of the Torb turret, trying to get rid of it. Will eventually get rid of that Torb turret. Now the push will finally begin for the Godstack. Ikaj, essentially alone for a moment, does end up getting back with the rest of the team here. Swiney spamming here as we drop down through half of the time bank. 20 seconds now for the Godstack. Swiney poking, prodding, trying to find something, but Ikaj has pummeled down Wilson. Swiney meets the same fate, and everybody getting a piece of Special Forces right now as the Godstack. That's going to be an A cap.
Yeah, and like I said, being able to execute your composition to its utmost effectiveness, that's where Godstack looked well, and that was a well-executed rush there. Now, like you said, this should be the cap of point A. Nobody's going to be able to come in and touch, but this like half-hearted touch is actually going to cost Special Forces.
Yeah, it's going to cost them so much as Khan cleans up a couple of kills there. Tark walking the wrong damn direction as the other two, the supports, are able to live here.
And yeah, so now this is just going to be a bunch of payload space as Special Forces have to wait for, you know, forces to get back into the fight here. Godstack, they already have this Amp Matrix. This should help them build to their Blizzard as well to sort of keep things going. Special Forces really are just kind of waiting on Sweeney to get this Gravitic Flux online to sort of be their best stopping power.
Kaj up here on the high ground has the Nemesis form ready to go. Just trying to get that healing going, knocked off the high ground by the accretion from Swiney, who has a Gravitic Flux right around the corner, but Khan has started this fight off with a pick, doesn't end up getting traded as the spam continues onto the low ground. Coalescence from Carlos as well as the Gravitic Flux from the Sigma. It will be a Sig 9 there as Ikaj hits the ground, but not before the round ends. Not the worst push in the world for the God stack, but I mean, if they run this defense like they did the first time, I mean, 4 minutes is going to be a lot of time to burn through.
Yeah, and so I think it comes down to how Godstack plays this, right? It's completely on them here to make sure that they can actually capitalize in a meaningful way off of whatever they end up running, right? Because they've shown us a few different looks now: the dive, the poke, the rush there on their attack. This could be one of those opportunities you go for one of those rush spawn holds potentially. Try to play it out with the Mei. Just sit and spawn as long as you can. Because again, that's all about time, bank, burn, and special forces. I mean, their composition isn't necessarily built to break a spawn hold by any means. However, they have almost 4 minutes. Somebody can swap to a Bastion, a Pharah, and make it a living hell for Godstack and quickly blow them up and get them off the objective. But the fights that come after are going to be really interesting depending on how much time Godstack can burn as well as how much ult charge they can accrue off this initial spawn.
A big time bank here for the God stack to get through. 3 minutes, 46 seconds for Special Forces to get to 55.5 meters on Objective B. They're going to pop out of this back corner. Nemesis form from Ikaj in. Carlos, the first casualty. Immortality Field invested, keeping Ikaj healthy, but Swiney going to be denied the entrance into their own spawn. A great wall from Psychoka.
I don't want to laugh, but it was so funny watching the Sig back up and keep slamming his face into the wall. He was like, let me in, just let me in. But like I said, these spawn hold breaker picks are going to come out, like the Malga's already here to try to help, deter things like the Ramatra and force out cooldowns from the Mei to help enable Special Forces to get freedom.
This high ground control going to make it a little bit more difficult as they take advantage of the newer parts of this map. Swiney going to jump into the back line. This cardiac overdrive cannot help you if you aren't shooting at anybody, though. That immortality field, too much to contend with. Saber does end up ripping through 3 players. Now getting tracked down by the ice beam of Psychoka, who does end up getting themselves killed there. But it will be a break, but it wasn't a bad hold at all.
Yeah, you get a minute off the clock here. And now you're going to be able to come back in with both a Blizzard and a Deadeye. Blizzard, absolutely massive, of course. Granted, there's a good opportunity for Special Forces to simply speed away with the Lucio speed boost and things of that nature. But overall, it's an opportunity, right? As long as you're able to find value and this Genji doesn't get too much done in the backline, then you actually have a chance here.
Well, I mean, the backline is not separated. They are playing as a 5 stack here. Blizzard in. Well, they were playing as a 5 stack. The Blizzard, though, is incredible. Saber did end up killing Khan, but that is not going to be enough to keep Special Forces in it now. 2 minutes on the clock, half the time bank gone through.
Half the time bank gone, half of it still to go. Special Forces feeling some swaps once again, realizing that the Sigma just isn't going to cut it. They're going to go back over to the Malga, but coming up with some DPS ults of their own, right? They're going to have this Blade. Obviously, Octo on the other side having a sound barrier is going to make it a little bit difficult for Saber to really find the value here. But if you can cut through, find even one pick, that's going to be the opening Special Forces need to potentially get point A.
Just under 90 seconds for the Special Forces now. 80. Tark trying to find something with this overheat, but nothing really going to come through as the Amp Matrix does. Because has the Annihilation, but the Coalescence could be very annoying. The sound barrier coming out to stop the Coalescence rather than the Dragon Blade. So once Saber comes back with that Blade, next fight could be good for Special Forces.
Yeah, I mean, Godstack, honestly, bit of a toss from them. The overinvestment into that fight, just a Coalescence, ended up getting out the Annihilation, the Amplification Matrix, and the Sound Barrier here. The only shining sun is Psychoka potentially could build up to a Blizzard here that could try to zone out this Blade if it's just sort of chucked at the feet, make it, the Genji hesitant to get in. But there's still a Molten Core and a Sound Barrier for Special Forces. I mean, they have tools to crack this open.
All right. 30 seconds now. Sound barrier to engage, but Saber has fallen. No Dragon Blade in sight. Khan going to fall here, but the Ravenous Vortex is just incredible. The touch will come through. Tark will not get this point for free. Gonna get pummeled down eventually. And with 10 seconds left, It seems as though the Godstack have weathered the storm. It'll be a Psychoka, or rather a Saber Blade. But Psychoka, with this Ice Beam, will be able to deny too much more coming through. Gonna be able to track down this Genji eventually, right? Right? Y'all take down Saber, right? Okay, Khan coming in with a massive two-piece here, but Swaney coming into this fight, going to be good for it, and now there will only be one or two more chances for the Godstack to stop this cart.
I mean, there's going to be one, right? Like, that payload, it looks super far away, but with the time being spent unlocking, like, Godstack, they're still in spawn here. It's a completely reset ult economy. Nobody's got anything. Khan, if the fight goes long, should build up to an amplification matrix. But realistically, right, Special Forces, they kind of need to play this fast and loose almost. Like, get somebody on the cart. The rest of you need to be forward, looking for picks, looking for opportunities to get a pick here. Saber's been so good at it all series long, and right now, Saber's who you need to look to potentially be your clutch in this fight.
All right, well, Khan building up to this amplification matrix, Baton Mikita! Killing the Lucio early. Wilson, the first casualty in this fight. Swiney trying to find something here, but no cardiac overdrive in sight. The Godstack will weather the storm here on Havana. They move to 2.
That was a chaotic map. There's no other words for it. From where we started to where we ended, it was just absolute insanity the entire way through. I mean, Special Forces, you know, well, they were able to force their chaos. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, there was just this extra level, this extra, you know, power that was in the side of, you know, the Godstack. And now, like you said, they come away with 2 maps, looking incredibly solid here. But, gosh, like, I don't even just know the exact words. It's just, it's so chaotic, so brutal back and forth.
Yeah, I'm a little bit speechless at the moment. It didn't really seem like, after that first attack, it didn't really seem like the Godstack had it in them, right? Ending up with a pretty decent attack in their second chance, right? Not bad at all. And then a really, really good defense, because 3 minutes and I think it was 47 seconds or something like that. That's a lot of time to get through, right? Especially based on how fast the Special Forces were able to attack their first time through. It was effective by the Godstack. That's how I'm gonna say that. It was effective. They got their job done, and now as we head into our first break of this series, Special Forces are going to need to figure something out, because thus far, they have not had, you know, the game that they would have expected themselves to have here. Down 2-0, not on match point yet, but they are getting very, very close to it, so we are going to cut to the break. When we come back, it'll be Special Forces for their third and I believe final map pick of the series here, as, you know, they are looking to try and keep themselves alive. All right, welcome back, everybody. Chaotic game, to say the least, after 2. We find ourselves at a 2-map deficit for Special Forces. The Godstack able to bring it out in the end on Havana. I mean, we know where we're going for map number 3. It's going to be New Junk City. So I'm curious if this is just going to be what we saw at the end, if we're devolving back to the lowest common denominator in the Mauga. Man, I really don't know anymore.
Like, that's the thing. Like, that Havana game, it fried every brain cell. It cooked them all. But, you know, you gotta put that behind you for Special Forces. If you're Godstack, you don't have to, because, hey, you're up 2 maps. Be happy about it. But it's an interesting pick, right? Special Forces to go over to this map, you know, when they haven't been playing the most brawl-centric composition in the world. But in case you were a little bit confused, we have even more role swaps happening for you. So Carlos was on Moira for some reason, back over to DPS, probably means Junkrat. Sweeney was on tank, over to support, trying to do a little bit of healing. I think I've seen Sweeney in this role before, so that kind of makes sense. And that's going to be Tark now on tank, as this is just... I don't know if this is the Special Forces having fun, or if this is actually like something they've practiced and strategized, but either way, we are in for a map of Overwatch of all time.
I mean, this is, you know, I'm looking at the team sheet that they provide us, and I mean, it says that they swap around a lot. So like, if Carlos is on tank, swap the picture to Hog. If you know, so this is something that they do on occasion, right? It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked thus far. So now heading into our 3rd map, this is going to be Special Forces' 3rd tank trying to find something going. I'm wondering if this is going to mean like a Junker Queen, or, you know, back to the Mauga, as I said. Orisa could come out for Special Forces, I guess. At this point, I'm a lot of bit turned around. I'm a little bit confused as to what the game plan for Special Forces is coming into this, because it's not often that you see swaps in general, you know, even switching players out, but swapping roles is something that is not common at all. So, I mean, I guess we did say Special Forces need to figure something out, and I mean, I guess this is them trying.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this to me is probably accepting that you have to play Brawl, whether it's going to end up being the Mauga or the new standard Orisa. And this is just potentially, you know, somebody who's more comfortable on those Brawl tanks. Junker Queen, also a valid option. Absolutely love me some Queen, but we'll have to see how that Junker Queen sort of shakes out, especially against the Orisa, right? eCash has been very dependable on the Metal Horse all day long, and it's something that you have to take in mind. And again, right, we talk about why the Juno break has been meta for 6 months plus. Please, Blizzard, like, nerf Juno, do something. But it's super sustainable. Everybody's going to be healthy on the side of Godstack for a very long time, unless some good solid burst damage can be found onto one of these supports to chunk somebody down, and then being able to move from there. Granted, I talk about burst damage, and who knows, Carlos may be the answer. Maybe the Junkrat can be the key to victory here and finally cut this Godstack squad apart.
Right, well, we will just have to wait and see as we head in here. Playing Ring Around the Rosie with the objective at the moment, unlocks in, I guess, now. So, Tark being shoved out of the Immortality Field, brutal for Special Forces as Ikaj controls when and where Tark is allowed to fight. It will be the Godstack taking this first flip.
Yeah, and they got a little bit split up because the Special Forces, they tried to send people onto the objective first instead of taking the fight Because, you know, you're greedy. You want that a chance at the point cap here. But it means that you can't get aggressive if you're on tank. And Tark made that mistake. Now going over to the Orisa, maybe wants some of that survivability. But again, it's not just Orisa that's tanky. It's this backline that's doing it. So maybe there has to be some sort of adaptation from the side of Special Forces supports as well to try to make sure Tark isn't going down in these fights.
It's going to be a little bit harder to shove this Orisa around, so hopefully this adaptation for Special Forces will work out for them. Now dropping down to the point. They almost get the flip coming in here, 75% of the way to it, but nothing coming through as Tark falls over first again here. So now it is going to be the rest of these players for Special Forces trying to make a play. Sycoka is in here for the trade. Does go down, but it doesn't seem like Special Forces can do anything with that trade.
And so, yeah, I mean, not able to do anything with the trade, so now entering final fight situation here is going to be a bit of a touch. And Matrix is already out. I mean, it's in such a weird angle, it would be hard to get value.
Yeah, and an unfortunate trap there for Tonmikita. Carlos able to clean that one up. The orbital ray does not end up providing a whole heck of a lot, but that does provide a whole hell of a lot. The God Stack popping that Terra Surge, finding these kills, taking the point.
Yeah, and I mean, just Terra Surge and Orbital Ray, they're having to be invested, so they're not at too much of an old deficit come the next Flashpoint. That being said, tons of tools for both squads to work with here. I expect Godstack to potentially go first, get a little more aggro as they know they have Sycoka's Blade online, potentially tracking that there's no sound barrier. But Carlos ripped the Riptire incredibly early, now has a limited amount of time to find some members with it.
Well, not going to find much other than some splash damage on the fringes of that ultimate. 3 in the hands of the God Stack. Special Forces struggling to build up to theirs. This Dragon Blade is out. Does end up getting taken down. The Immortality Field proving to be annoying, but with the trades coming in too strong, it must be Special Forces bailing from this fight again.
Yep, as the cap goes over to Godstack here. It is a pretty solid ult trade though, right? You get both Deadeye and Dragon Blade out for Carlos's Riptire, so now you're going to come back into this one with your own Blade, your own Terra Surge, and really only the rally to worry about. So this could be a good opening for Special Forces, but they do actually have to capitalize and make sure Saber's Blade is cared for enough that it can go and find some picks in the backline.
Alright, Tark on the point trying to control this space, and that Amp Matrix in such a strange position. Now the Terra Surge in from a Tark, it won't find even a little bit of damage there, and those abilities are going to run out of time eventually, but what does not run out here is Saber's Bloodlust, finding 2 with the Dragon Blade. Will be a third, and Special Forces will take over.
I mean, yeah, but Special Forces, they just threw everything in the kitchen sink. I mean, that was the sound barrier, the amp matrix, you know, all of it in a bag of sand, if you want to call it that. Godstack now get to walk back in with some heavy hitters of their own, right? They have the Orbital Ray, a Terra Surge to boot. If Tomikita really sees the opportunity, could even throw a Deadeye in as the cherry on top of that cake. I mean, Special Forces, they really are going to need to just find some raw picks before this fight even has a chance to begin.
Carlos bailing away as the Orbital Ray comes in, trying to get as far away from that ultimate as possible. And you know what? I do not blame them. Because walking forward has the Terra Surge. The flip belongs to the Godstack. No picks, but they're happy with the flip for now. Because ready to get this rolling Hyper Ring in from Khan. That Terra Surge going to be in effect, but nobody will be even a little bit phased by it. They're able to get away from it. Is everybody for Special Forces, but nobody is going to be so lucky as to escape this fight unscathed for them. The Godstack map point.
Yeah, map point here, and, you know, they still have plenty to work with. Special Forces, they're making some swaps over to the Zarya now, just to try to raw counter each other. It's going to be, you know, a bit of a play here. I think that if you can actually bubble Saber on this Genji and just let them sort of get in, get aggressive to help build you energy, it could be just sort of a double-edged good, but other than that.
Saber, good for 1, but Tark does end up getting traded out here. Octo not in the fight, but still most of the healing in play for the God Stack. The Deadeye in from Ton Mikita going to control a little bit of this area here. Ton Mikita does end up falling, but the flip does belong to God Stack. Will not be theirs for a long time, though, as it will be Special Forces coming out on top.
Exactly, and you know, obviously this early percentage is nice here, as actually the Tracer's stalling out for quite a while, going to be able to pick up over to 20%. This is still, you have to actually be able to clear it out. Finally, the kill comes through on the Octo, and now the Tracer will be the last to fall, I bet. But, I mean, 33% for a fight that was won a long time ago is not what you want to see. Godstack going to be coming into this next one. They have a rally to work with, as well as their orbital will eventually be there as well. Special Forces, with this Zarya, you know, they're not going to want to get too aggressive, right? Especially looking at how the energy is built right now. It doesn't seem like they're very high charge at all on Tark. So they're just going to want to wait and find their time.
Here's the Ant Matrix from the far side of the point. The problem now, alright. Well, I was going to say that Swiney is alone, but it ends up folding Psychoka like an omelet right there, taking down the Tracer. No worry in for that Baptiste. The Special Forces will force the God Stack away.
And this is some good, you know, resilience from the side of Special Forces. But with that pick already, I mean, they have to see how this Orbital Ray does.
Swiney does end up getting traded out, so the Orbital Ray will prove to be too much for Special Forces to deal with. Here's Saber trying to just milk as much of this time as possible, as are the remaining 3 players for Special Forces. They get to 99, they just need to bail.
Yeah, I mean, they just need to bail for the time being here, but it's going to be a pretty heavy ult fight coming back and forth here, right? Rally for Sound Barrier, both those ults are going to be incredibly high sustained. Rally has it going a tad bit longer, whereas, you know, the Sound Barrier is just more sustained overall in the short term. Now with also these double DPS ults coming out on the side of Special Forces, as long as nobody's getting caught up in Ekaj's Terra Surge, I mean, either of them really can be a fight ender here to get Special Forces a point on the board.
Here is the Riptire down, 2 claimed for Carlos, and that is going to be more than enough for Special Forces. They cannot lose their Zarya, however. The healing needs to come through. Carlos picks up a 3rd, and that will do it for this point. It will be Refinery belonging to Special Forces. They're not done here in New Junk City.
I mean, hey, listen, you know, you don't need to heal the Zarya if everybody else is dead, and that was sort of the logic going into that fight. But speaking of the Zarya, now going to be mirrored on both sides, but Dark already has this lovely Graviton Surge here, and what do you know, Zaber has a blade to combo with it. Willing to place your bet that this could be play of the game, unless there's somehow an amazing flail whip shot that makes it so nobody dies.
All right, well, Ekaj going down here early, playing Special Forces game. We'll see if that'll work out for him later, but without Ekaj in here, there's not really going to be a comfortable fight for the God Stack. Ooh.
Absolutely tragic for Psychoka there, but I mean, really, Zaber has been stepping up massively here, as well as just overall the Special Forces. They've had this sort of mental resilience, right? Not overcommitting to fights, being able to sort of one and done in a lot of these situations. We'll have to see if they can do it again here with the Amplification Matrix.
Alright, well, they do have a couple of ults here. That Ant Matrix, like you said, and the Dragon Blade, and we're going to get a pause in from the God Stack. Give me 1 second. I unplugged my headset.
It's okay. Listen, Fletch can't hear, but I can hear. I can do all of the yipping and the yapping, but, you know, technical pauses. You know what? Honestly, like, that perfectly exemplifies, right? Like, you had a little tech issue right there. Tech issues happen to everybody. We're all human. Except for me, of course. I'm flawless. Smile. But no, I am, of course, very much joking. I think I have more tech issues than anybody here. But
well, you're all tech, so... I mean...
What do you mean? This is the real world. You guys are in the fake world. The real world is my computer.
Whatever you say, I suppose.
This, you know, what's absolutely crazy? This guy Fletch right here. Let's talk about him. Let's just talk about how this guy Fletch. He's just, you know, he's here. He's so famous that literally we were playing some Overwatch the other day, and somebody on because obviously his in-game name is also In the Fletch, was just like, wait, you're the Dallas fan that stands at the front of the crowds. Like, typed it in match chat for us, and we were like, oh, look at this guy Fletch, huh? He's so famous. Gets in all the OWCS promo. Absolutely just ego out of his ears. Look at him.
Hey, Headrammer's been recognized more than I have, so, you know, hands up right there.
Well, yeah, Headhammer's cool.
Headrammer is cool. Love that guy. But right now, this series, we're trying to figure out, you know, what is happening on the other side of the monitor.
Yeah, our best guess is probably, I don't know, somebody just decided they needed a pause. It was, I think, eCash that called for it. So, you know, you really gotta, you know what it was? It was like, guys, this is a tank that's not Orisa or Mauga. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I think my buttons are broken. But it did get the little whisper in her ear that potentially we're going back in, unless I'm crazy. I might be crazy.
I'll be honest with you. I'm really uncomfortable right now because I just knocked that metal cup into one of my teeth. And now it feels silly. But the God Stack running over to the point, putting some pressure on the Deadeye from Tonmikita. Probably, okay, yeah, going to find a pick here. Swiney under duress, but it will be the God Stack flipping the point here as the rest of the Special Forces try to escape with their lives.
Being able to escape with their lives, though, like you said, and, you know, good on Special Forces, not chucking anything into that fight. Very odd that a very obvious Deadeye from main was able to get value, but happens to the best of us. You can't complain too much. Special Forces, again, coming into this with both DPS ults almost. Carlos will be there by the time it starts out. Meanwhile, Khan on the other side of things for Godstack, having this orbital ray, a good way of healing to potentially mitigate this blade.
Looking for the pulse bomb, gonna find the stick, but the immortality field too much to contend with for the pulse bomb. However, the orbital ray too much to contend to for just about anybody. Will end up being the ultimate that won the fight there for Godstack, and it's going to be a really desperate touch if Special Forces is even gonna get a chance.
I was gonna say Wilson's probably gonna be your best touch, but Wilson just went back to spawn to tax everybody. I don't know if that's a visual bug, but Wilson, you're on heal, buddy. You gotta speed. You gotta get over to the objective. Might even have to waste some Zarya bubbles just trying to get a safe touch onto the point.
Well, there goes one. Riptire in from Carlos could be massive, but just rips it too early. Does not find the kills. Big rally stun in here from Octo. Massive Graviton surge for the side of the Godstack. This Dragon Blade going to find one. Finds a second, so this fight not over. It's a 1 versus 1, and unfortunately, in a 1v1 between Zarya and a Genji, Zarya tends to win those. Godstack are on match point.
The Ajaxington Wilson, what happened? Oh, that's tragic. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, you come in off that stagger touch, and, you know, I was sort of saying, oh, you know, it's very good, very measured, the way that we're seeing this sort of play come out from the side of Special Forces, but ultimately, I feel as though Zaber held onto that blade way too long. Like, that should have been something you opened with after you knew you had the touch, but I don't know if they were trying to wait out bubble cooldowns or what was it, but ultimately it comes through after everybody else is dead, so sure, you get a few flashy kills, but ultimately when there's nobody left but you, that blade is never going to be the fight winner that you want it to be. And now Godstack, they find themselves one map away from a sweep here in the grand finals.
Yeah, and I mean, it's starting to look like something very similar is happening on the other side of this break. Right now, 0907, just as an update for the EU PC Open bracket, going up 3-0 over Ure Mirai at the moment. So.
Hey, buddy, you should look at live too, because Hippie told us that it's not just 3-0. Teehee.
Oh, okay. Well, the game is over. Well, hey, no, shush. The people
We're 5
that are
minutes
live.
behind. It's fine.
You cringe lord. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Congratulations to 0907. Congratulations to 0907 on winning that bracket. Get their money up. But for now, on our side, Special Forces, this isn't the team that we've seen Special Forces be all season long. I mean, this has been horribly messy from start to finish this entire series, right? Not a not who we've seen Special Forces be. They've been pretty decisive for the most part, right? But it's these high pressure situations that seem to get them, right? The grand finals of the mid-season tournament, they fall 3-1 to Team EXE. Now they find themselves in a position where they are on match point, but on the wrong side of it. And God, we saw something similar happen yesterday, but it cannot be understated how hard, how damn near impossible it is to reverse sweep a first to 4. We saw it pulled off yesterday. That is an exception to the rule, not the norm. So now Special Forces find themselves in a very similar position to what Smelvin did yesterday. They need to find some kind of footing if they do not want to go out in a sweep.
And, you know, to look at how it happened for Smelvin yesterday, right? Starting on map 4, instead of shying away from their own comp and being scared of it, they ultimately just doubled down, right? They just said, you know what, no. We're going to run this come hell or high water. We know we're better at this, and we know we can make it work pretty damn near anywhere. And so I feel like that's what Special Forces have to do. They have to go back to their tried and true. They can't try to mirror some sort of brawl meta or something, because Godstack is going to beat them on that, right? They've looked so damn good on the Orisa all series long, and that backline, it's just been so survivable as well. So I feel like that's the adaptation that Special Forces are going to have to look for. Just double down on what you're good at this point, because, you know, you have nothing left to lose. If you lose this final map on it, you know, so be it, oh well. But, you know, if you're able to start building up that momentum, it's going to, you know, start making Godstack question themselves a little bit. All you need is one map to really start feeling alive again. And I will say they've left themselves in a pretty precarious situation compared to Smelvin. Like, Smelvin was at least, you know, limiting themselves to map picks where their stuff could work better. Special Forces having the hybrid and push as what's left for them to pick from. I mean, Junkrat is going to be interesting on both, right? I think King's Row is probably your best bet. That first point, there's so many off angles and stuff you can take with a Junkrat that, in case you want to get creative, do your little angles. But the rest of the team, you know, still has to be able to play up to that level, right? You can't just rely on one person to get these picks. And I think, you know, that Flashpoint map was a perfect example. How many times did we see the tire going in alone, right? Nobody else on the team was trying to make space or go forward or anything like that. It's not like the team was dead. It's just everybody sort of sat on top of the Junkrat's body, was like, all right, let's see what this tire does. Like, you have to make space, right, for a Junkrat. Otherwise, if everybody's able to focus it down, that hero is never going to get any value.
Yeah, and therein lies the problem with pocket picks, right? Because there's a reason that they aren't considered good, right? There's a reason Junkrat is not considered a good character in general. And when you do have these pocket picks like the Junkrat or, you know, the Bastion currently, you've got to play around it, and it's hard to play around it if you don't know what you're doing. And Special Forces have done pretty well all season long to do it, and it is going to be King's Row, like you said, that we are going to for Special Forces' final map pick. But more to my point is, like, they just have not been playing around their pocket players' picks, I guess. A little bit of alliteration there, but I mean, they need to help their, you know, these verifiably worse characters get value, because as good as the players are on these characters, if you don't help these pocket picks get the value, they're not going to get the value.
Exactly. So we'll have to see if that's what ends up happening here, as we're having a little bit of an in-game issue once again, so we'll just go ahead and get that sorted as we continue to yap. But I mean, you know, listen, I'm not saying I'm psychic, but I did predict King's Row. That's all I'm trying to say. Maybe.
Well, we hadn't gone to hybrid and
It was hybrid or push.
It was hybrid or push, and nobody ever chooses any of the other hybrid maps. So, you know,
Hey, listen, they could have gone to. I was gonna list another map to be like they could have gone there. I don't even know what else is in the hybrid
the
pool.
other
I think
three
I've
are
only seen Kings.
the other three are Blizzard World, Eichenwald, and Hollywood. I've seen Hollywood a few times.
People have picked Blizzard World. We've seen
Yeah,
that map.
yeah, we've seen all four of these picks come out during the playoffs, but I mean, push comes to shove, the meta is Rush, so
Mhm.
you know why would you want to go anywhere else? You
Because
know,
Hollywood's fun. You get to.
well that's
you
what
get to be able to
that's what I was gonna say, right? The meta is Rush. It has been for months now. And when push comes to shove, if you're going to pick a map to play Rush on between Blizz, Eichenwald, or Hollywood, or Kings Row, there's only one real option. Unless you want to, you know, play a little bit more of a poke or dive. In that case, you know, you'd go to a Blizzard World or a Hollywood. Those kinds of map picks would be coming out if you wanted to change and break away from the meta to try and give yourselves an opportunity to, you know, find some momentum on maybe an off meta pick so that when you go back to that meta, which you eventually will have to, it's not really going to it's going to provide you that momentum, but of course we're gonna see some kind of rush. BAP, Lucio for special forces, it's all that they've run today, pretty much, with the exception of the time that they were on ERE. I mean, is if you're going to see this kind of comp come out from special forces, of course it's going to be Kings Row. Where else would you go for it in this in this hybrid pool?
Nowhere. I mean, it's just the
Yeah.
nature of the game, right? You're going to continue to play Rush, but even if your unique styles and stuff, it works better on Kings. It's Kings Row. We're in EU. The fact we should never actually question Kings Row being picked is I feel like it's just sort of their homeland, even if Britain, UK, whatever it's supposed to be called, is not part of EU anymore. It's EU in my heart. You know, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's Kings Row. It's Kings Row. I mean, it's called Scrims Row for a reason, right? It's up there with like the best of, you know, the maps in Overwatch. It always has been. It's always been one of the most popular.
It sucks.
It's Kings Row.
It's lame.
It's
I'm
King.
bored.
I mean, I can't say I feel that differently. I am a little bit tired of watching it, but as a player, it's just so important to understand that comfort is incredibly important. So as much as we complain, especially behind closed doors, Kings Row is just always going to be the comfort pick in maps, as well as Lijiang Tower. And you know, we talked about only having one observer left here today, and I know who it is now.
Are we back down? I thought they fixed it. I feel like they fixed it. They probably fixed it. They fixed it in the time. If not, then I'm lying. But hey, look, there's a Junkrat spamming the door. No early Widowmaker, but they're still respecting the sightlines because you have to here on Kings. Godstack running about what I'd expect. The Ash Tracer, very solid, very dependable here on Kings Row. Because you don't need to sit with your Orisa as much as long as your supports are doing it. So overall, I mean, Godstack, very solid comp for their attack here, but we just have to see what they end up making work.
I mean, Ikaj trying to command this space, but Saber, who is now, I guess we didn't talk about it, the fourth tank in for Special Forces, trying to make something happen, but the Godstack just end up rolling through this Special Forces roster.
I didn't even realize it. Wow, yeah, this is the fourth tank on the day. It's certainly a choice to be making when you find yourself with only potentially one map left, separating you from the loss here. So, I don't know, we'll have to see. It's going to be about potentially trying to mark Psychoka, like you just saw there, taking the Tracer out of these fights and, you know, being able to execute off of that.
Swang's been doing a good job of that for the most part, but need to keep that up. 5 minutes on the clock for Godstack here. building up to these ultimates very, very soon. Carlos hopping up to the high ground. Tonmikita found out there. Ikaj moving forward now, a little bit low in that health department. Zaber going to pop that commanding shout to get away, but Carlos will not be so lucky. That was a nice little knife there, but unfortunately, Zaber's alone. So will fall. Godstack will continue their push. You just gotta die here, Swiney.
Die, get a solid reset, which you have plenty of time, right? I mean, Special Forces, they'll get another fight here at the end of Point B. Probably not even, like, the worst positioning either, depending on how far Godstack pushes up. But Godstack, they are approaching this fight with all 5 ultimates. I'm sure the bomb will be built before it really breaks out here. And depending on how much they have to invest, I mean, Godstack could be setting up for a massive snowball.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos just being forced out so quickly there. They didn't kill him, so they're okay for now. Special Forces losing space quickly, but with Ikaj overextended and dead. Some great shots coming in from Swiney now. Special Forces have found their break to take here.
I mean, yeah, they found their opening, they found their opportunity, and they were able to do it before anything got pulled, right? So now it's going to be a pretty even ult bank across both teams here. I'm especially going to be looking towards Wilson on this Lucio, right? The sound barrier, it can be used to mitigate a lot of things, so the timing is going to be key in trying to keep everybody alive with it, with the sound barrier for as long as they can throughout any of the abilities or ultimates that are coming out from the side of Godstack.
Alright, well, Riptire in here for Carlos under duress from this Tracer. Nice little connection there, forces out the recall, but the healing is there to help Carlos live. But Ikaj with this Terror Surge, my lord. Big investment here from Godstack, 4 ultimates, in fact, but it does knock them through into Objective C with a little over 4.5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, heavy invest, like you said, but ultimately it's worth it because now they're going to be pushing into Point C. Special Forces only end up using their support ults here, so they still have a lot of tools to work with, as well as an early pick onto Tonmikita. Means this payload is not going to move that far into C just yet, and it's going to allow the defense to sort of set themselves up here.
Psychoka on the off angle sees the low players here for Special Forces, but not able to follow up just yet. Zaber getting very, very low, pushed out of the Immortality field and taken down. Now, this Riptire has got to be massive, but it's just broken so quickly. And now the Deadeye in from Tark, chased down, taken down. Godstack will continue to roll. 3 minutes, 40 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, and they're able to just sort of keep the momentum going here. They have a Pulse Bomb as well. Zaber is coming out with a Rampage, though, so as long as it's not caught by a Spear from Ikaj, it can definitely provide that anti and get a lot of kills going.
Well, there's the Pulse Bomb from Tark, but a massive Rampage helping to keep Special Forces in this fight, in this game. Psychoka good for a couple, and a couple of goodbye picks here from Con and Psychoka.
Yeah, they're not done.
Okay, now the Con's dead, you have to be done.
I think that was the thing, right? Khan died, but literally if Psychoka's there a second earlier to shoot Tark on the Widow, Zaber's just gone. Wait.
Carlos coming back on the Torbjorn. It is a good pick on the Octo, but that one pick is just never going to be enough. Because it does end up exploding. This Amp Matrix has got to be super massive for the side of Special Forces, but it's damage coming in from Swiney rather than the amplified healing through that window. Con from the opposite high ground, raining hell down. 2 minutes, 40 seconds on the clock on King's Row for the Godstack.
And it seems like the Godstack are just hammering the nails into the coffin one after another here. Special Forces, you know, the swaps, they're not working out. They're not able to hold space. They're sort of just allowing these snowballs to happen. It's feeling very lackadaisical. I'm not saying the series is over by any means, but it feels as though the hole has been dug and Special Forces are looking pretty snug in that coffin. It would take a monumentous task to sort of bring them back from this brink right now. You know, we saw it on Havana, though, so who knows? We definitely can't rule out extra innings with these two squads. Godstack can have these lapses in judgment where they sort of just fall over. They allow the chaos to consume them. But realistically, I mean, everything's going well for Godstack right now. Their defense, they're going to be able to, again, play this Bap Lucio style, get a little bit more aggressive. We saw how Khan liked to be a bit of a damage dealer in these situations. Special Forces in the spawn. I mean, it'd be interesting to come out on the Ana, I think. Especially if you don't think that there's going to be this Brig Juno backline. It could create openings here with the anti-nades. It could also just be a spawn situation. We'll have to sort of see how serious Sweeney is about it, but Special Forces, you know, right now, they're out of options, they're out of time. Something's got to find some sort of purchase in this map.
Carlos on the Widowmaker, not exactly known for the hit scan prowess, but trying regardless. Psychoka antied off rip and taken down by Wilson. That's an excellent start here for Special Forces. Tark forced to use the Wraith form way more liberally than they would have liked to there. But with Saber dropping Ton Mikita here, this is going to be an excellent start to the attack for Special Forces.
The excellent start they needed, right? They pathed well, they found that anti early on the Psychoka, and now they're slowly able to take space off of it. And look how far forward everybody is, right? I think it's probably just going to be Sweeney back on the point, capping it. But this forward hold is, you know, sort of letting the defense know, as Carlos, not known for the Widowmaker, but connecting with a solid headshot.
There will be a touch from Ikaj onto the point. Nice little pathing through the hotel there, but it will not be enough in the end, as it will be Special Forces eventually going to cap out here. And unless Octo and Khan have something to say about it, unfortunately, Sweeney is actually the person who has anything to say about it. A big ante to clean up those supports as Tark picks up 3.
And so now Godstack, they're making a slight adaptation to their comp. Ikaj back over to the Winston here. I'm very interested to see. I feel like they're just trying to sync up a dive with Psychoka, which obviously onto an Ana, it should be a slam dunk, right? That's somebody you can take out of the fight every single time. However, ooh, do not stand still, Wilson. I think you have a Tracer on you.
Right. Wilson sliding. Movement too strong. Psychoka not able to track down that one. The sleep onto Ikaj does connect now. Bailing back to the high ground. Map flipped for the Godstack. Carlos under duress now by Psychoka. Swiney with 75 HP. Bob going to enter the fray from Ton Mikita, but the healing not going to be nearly enough from Octo, or rather Wilson, to keep that Ana in that fight. Will be the Godstack winning out.
And, I mean, Special Forces, at least they get to hang on to all 5 ultimates here, so they have plenty going into this next fight. That being said, it's going to be hard to find purchase with some of them, right? I mean, Death Blossom takes advantage of people who are grouped up. I mean, Godstack composition is anything but that. You're probably going to be looking to find Khan in the backline if you can. Meanwhile, these wall hacks just being activated by Carlos here, trying to see if anybody can be found.
They know where this Widowmaker's at, and Carlos, even with that Venom Mine being a bit of an annoyance to Psychoka, Carlos cannot track down that Widow, or rather the Tracer. Now the Death Blossom in here, the Beyblade, but yeah, like you said, needed those people to be stacked up. Doesn't find the value, but it does end up being a fight win for Special Forces, but they just do not know when to quit on this Godstack roster.
Yeah, I feel like Psychoka at this point is playing with food, maybe a little bit of hubris, saying, oh, you know what, I can just keep going in, there's nothing really stopping me. I mean, hey, listen, if you're not dying, I guess the answer, that is a true statement if I've ever seen one. Sweeney now over to the BAP, but not in the fray just yet, as they're still coming back from spawn, could mean that Special Forces has to give this up for the time being.
Carlos and Ikaj going at it, but it will be Carlos that meets their fate first. Now, without that Torbjorn, it's just going to be a hard disengage here from Special Forces, and Carlos bailing off that Torb.
Yeah, and so bailing off that Torb, doing what they need to do here. Now again, right, I feel like Psychoka's just been hounding on this Tracer, doing absolutely any and everything here. But it's just going to be the push in main now to see how it gets value.
Alright, Ikaj looking for something to zap. 2 minutes on the clock now for Special Forces. The defense looking incredible for the Godstack right now. Dive comes back through. Wilson so damn low. Can they find the Lucio? The answer is no, but Ton Mikita in the front line, dropping their mirror tark, meeting the spawn room once more, and Psychoka just playing a little bit safe, grabs the mega health pack as the Godstack will push Special Forces back to A.
Yeah, pushing them all the way back, and now this fast cap on A has evaporated. Still some decent time left in the time bank, but nothing that's really going to be able to mirror Godstack's run, even if you're flawless from here out. And again, look at this, right? Psychoka really not under any pressure in the backline. Now Sweeney trying to make it open with his Amp Matrix.
Well, Ikaj is providing that pressure. The Primal Rage is in. The Gravitic Flux, I think, picks up a couple, but not going to end up, okay, does end up finally dropping Ton Mikita, though Carlos getting traded is incredibly brutal. Does end up falling in the end. This Kitsune Rush actually invested in this fight for the Godstack, but there's really not anybody to follow up on it, and that's an Ajax for Octo, unfortunately.
Wait, Octo Ajax? I didn't even realize. What in tarnation? That's our second Ajax of the series. My goodness gracious. I mean, Special Forces, they, in a very chaotic, spiteful way almost, they cap point B. And now that we're heading to C, both teams only having the Death Blossom to work with for this next fight. If either Death Blossom gets more than a kill, I would be nothing more than impressed.
All right. Already a brutally low time bank for Special Forces, but Carlos starting it off here. Death Blossom is out, and hey, Mega, there's your Death Blossom. It's 2 for Ton Mikita, and the Godstack will be able to win that fight out with the ultimate that you said would be useless.
Okay, listen, 9 out of 10 Overwatch experts would agree with me there, but I guess,
doesn't.
you know, yeah, Ton Mikita was the 10th expert, believe it or not. But yeah, I mean,
that's brutal.
Finally, a good trap on a Psychoka might finally open this up for Special Forces to get the ball moving.
Carlos going in aggro. CZ Kaj gonna be knocking themselves up here. Has the Riptire. Will, gotta assume, let it rip from top, right? Okay, Ton Mikita just chilling by the cart, denying pressure. Tark very low, has to use the Wraith form early, has the Death Blossom ready to go themselves, but the Godstack looking a little bit lost at the mo.
Yeah, in these chaotic situations is where, you know, the Godstack, they've always looked lost a little bit bad, but that's a good pick on the Sweeney to start it out for them.
There's the Riptire, but Ikaj again. I believe that's the second time Ikaj has broken a Riptire, and Ton Mikita is headed over to the Widowmaker, finds a headshot, and with only 30 seconds left, it's almost looking like Special Forces is going to have to play for a draw.
I mean, yeah. Which, honest to goodness, they get a draw, I might do a backflip in real life. I don't know. That would be... It would be absurd.
Wait.
Oh my god. Okay, but wait, this is actually even worse. Now that Carlos doesn't get that, Carlos is not going to be there for the final fight. Special Forces have to fight this down one. There's a sound barrier to counter out the Gravitic Flux when that comes online. Somebody's still going to get over to the payload. This might just be the end of it.
Saber has to live, though. You see that health bar? It's just melting. And now overtime begins. The Amp Matrix from Swiney going to be a lot to deal with, but Special Forces are all falling over. Swiney way too focused on dealing damage to the Amp Matrix. Not enough healing. It was a messy, it was a dirty, but the Godstack break out. The Golden Brooms, they sweep the Special Forces. They are the EU GM champions.
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely great from Godstack here. You know, flexing across a variety of comps, the standard meta as well as the dive when it was allowed to come out and do what it needed to. But yeah, overall, just amazing from the Godstack. It was, you know, slightly messy at points, but that doesn't matter. They were able to secure the 4 maps back to back to back to back to take that championship, earn themselves their crown here, and by God, was it an interesting series.
I mean, understatement for this series for sure. I mean, it just kind of felt like Special Forces shot themselves in the foot constantly. And to be honest with you, it was this was less about which team is going to make mistakes, because there were a lot of mistakes between both of these teams throughout these 4 maps, but the question was, how are you going to take advantage of your opponent's mistakes? And unfortunately for Special Forces, the Godstack was just more than happy to take advantage of all those mistakes that they were making. From start to finish, the Godstack ran it very, very close, but it was in those clutch end-of-map scenarios where the Godstack really did phone it in, because, you know, like we said in that series with Smelvin yesterday, right? It's not how you start these maps, it's how you finish the maps. And in their case, it was how they finished the series. But Godstack in all 4 maps kind of got out onto, well, I guess with the exception of Kings Row, got out to some slow starts on the first 3. But in the end, they made it close, but they got the job done, and that is what earned them this sweep. And this is their season now. The Godstack are the champions.
Yeah, it feels like such an anticlimactic end with that almost C9 into just tomfoolery here. But Special Forces, I guess they just, I'm not gonna say they didn't want it, but it was so just peculiar the way that they were making all these. Yeah, they were just swapping people between roles. It feels like they were out of it. I don't know if they had circumstances or anything going on, but you know, second place after a season, you gotta hold your heads high. But even higher are the Godstack, who really, they fought here, they earned it. Like you said, a very average regular season, coming in as the underdogs here. They lose that first time around to Special Forces, getting swept, and then they decide, you know, we're just not going to drop a map after that. 10 maps in a row, making the lower bracket run into this grand finals, and just overall amazing for them.
Yep, and now we are going to cut it to a break here. When we come back, we will have an interview with our victor. It's going to be Psychoka representing the Godstack in our interview after this break, so stick around. We'll get to pick their brains, see how they're feeling. All right, welcome back, everybody. Our champions, the Godstack, have delegated Psychoka, their DPS player, to come talk to us about this series. Psychoka, y'all are the champions of the EU GM tier. How are y'all feeling right now about this win?
Yeah, it's really nice. Like, especially to beat a team that we, I'm pretty sure they knocked us out earlier on in the bracket, so it's really nice to take them down, especially in a 4-0. Feels really satisfying.
Yeah, very. Of course, obviously, it feels nice to have that win under the belt as well. But just looking back, going throughout the series, right? A lot of different looks came out from the other side of things. Did you guys anticipate this from Special Forces, or was this just sort of even throwing you guys for a loop a little bit in the lobby?
We knew that they would go like some kind of weird stuff. We know they like Junkrat. Previously, they like Doom. I don't think the Doom player's here today, but they like a lot of Junkrat. They play a lot of they pretty much play BAP everywhere. I know they played Larion first, but pretty much BAP everywhere usually, and then just a lot of Junkrat. And it was a lot more. It wasn't really about like playing super well on like one comp like it has been previously. It was a lot about like just, okay, well, they're on that character now, so we just have to switch, which felt frustrating at times, to be honest. Like Tracer into Torb isn't the most fun experience, but got there in the end.
Yeah, did absolutely what it needed to. I like just going through. I do want to focus specifically on Havana, because even with the silliness, you guys lost your footing and pretty much let the entire map slip out from under you, and then caused an insane clutch up where you had to play extra rounds there. Just in that moment, right? Was it like a comms thing? Was it just like nobody resetting? Like, what do you feel like went wrong there? And then how did your team recuperate?
Yeah, so it's definitely a comms thing on defense first. I think it was first defense, where we just kind of like crumbled. They got there in 3 minutes. It was just kind of like no one's talking and no one's listening. Someone says, "Oh, I'm gonna go fight point," and then our tank walks forward, and it's just a bit kind of like it's not like fully synced. And then we just thought, let's not do this comp. Let's go for a ram comp, a little bit easier into the sig. Basically, make sure Torb gets no value for the 9 flankers when we're on May, Cass. So it was a comms issue, but I think it was spurred on by like the comp just being bad that we were on. So once we had swapped something that played a lot better into Torb and Sigma, I think it kind of helped clean up afterwards.
I mean, clean up indeed. I mean, a sweep. Incredible performance from y'all, especially in those last couple of maps. Very, very strong. So now, Psychoka, as we get ready to wrap up this interview, you look back on your season for the God Stack, like the highs and the lows. How would you describe how y'all's season started and ended, and anything in between?
Honestly, I wasn't on the team right at the start. I think I joined just before roster lock. So I played 2 regular season games, I think. But when I joined, we were just kind of like we were just trying to have a bit of a laugh, really. And then we kind of realized, oh wait, we could maybe do something here. And we tried to start practicing certain comps. Like the Malga, especially for playoffs, was pretty fun to play. But I mean, over the course of the season, it was a really good time, to be honest. Just fun, really.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our interview, but we do have one other thing, and the only reason we're doing it while you're here is because it does have to do with you. Our Grand Finals MVP is going to be you. It's going to be Psychoka. Your Tracer and everything else you did during this series, I think was more than enough to put you in that position. I think that, especially on the Tracer on like King's Row and I want to say Havana and stuff like that, just harassing the backline. you definitely made a lot of space for your team to figure stuff out while you were playing that Tracer. So we thought that we'd let you know what we thought about that before we sent you out.
Thank you. Yeah.
Maggie, you got anything else to say before we kick this champ out?
No, I mean, go celebrate. You know, obviously, you get to hoist the CGL trophy. You got the GM tier unlocked. You get to say you're the best of the best. So congrats to you. I mean, just absolutely soak it in with the rest of your team.
Thank you.
All right. Well, one more thing. Is there anything that you? Oh, never mind. He's gone. He's gone. Bye, Psychoka. Congrats. Yeah, that is going to be that. But yeah, an incredible performance, especially near the end. It was really, really messy in the first two maps. You and I are probably not going to be the only ones that think that those first two maps were kind of weird, kind of silly.
Fudge, they're in the past. They happen.
Yeah, no,
you know?
no. That's what I'm saying is like it doesn't matter how you start, right? As long as you can get yourself together and build up the confidence, build up the strength, and you're able to finish as strong as the Godstack did, because they really didn't. This team did not look like the same team in the final two maps that we saw in the first two maps. They looked comfortable. They looked confident. They looked like they knew what they wanted to do. Those first two maps, not so much. They did still end up winning that because Special Forces was in a very similar position. But that's okay. The Godstack took advantage of what Special Forces did wrong, and they exploited it to the best of their abilities. And I mean, they didn't even have to do that much in the last two maps. They just played out of their minds on the final two maps. The Godstack, they deserve it. And yeah, okay, we'll go. What do you want?
Godstack absolutely deserve it. I get it. But, you know, I just want to say, because this is going to be our last grand finals, it's been a pleasure to cast with you all season long. We'll be back in, next season CGL. We got Ghost Tournament coming up. So many amazing things. I just want to give props to CGL. Don't worry, Headremmer, I'm not billing you for this part, so I'm allowed to yap. But just like CGL, it's a great community. Like literally, these productions, everything that gets put on, casters, talent, observers, producers, you guys coming in, getting to play these games, it all happens because you're here as a community. And hopefully CGL, it can continue to grow bigger and better. That's always the goal. And it's absolutely amazing to get to wrap up yet another season. And I just wanted to, I felt it was important that instead of yapping about some interesting Overwatch that we saw there for a few maps, I think let's just, take the time, reflect on the fact that we did it. We got through a whole damn season.
Yeah, season coming to a close. I'd like to shout out, some people in specific. We talk about the observers and the producers, but don't often say their names. So shout out Hippie, Echo, Rhino, our observers. There's a lot of them, so you'll have to excuse me if I miss somebody. But today we had Cry, June, Reach Dat, Orange, Blizzard, Mochi, Mara, and everybody else who helped to make this season possible. And of course, Big Boss Headrammer, our bald king, letting us do what we love to do. Very, very love that guy a lot. We talk a lot of trash about to each other and about each other, but it really is. This really is like a family in CGL, and I could not imagine me being anywhere else right now. So I want to thank you, the fans who've watched these teams throughout this season, and you, Megalast, for dealing with me all season long. And the players who went to battle for us all season long. Thank you all for watching. We do have a couple of more matches coming up here tonight. 2 more grand finals to officially close out the season. It will not be us, of course. We've got some great casters to work those games. BSC Bobcats Tanuki will be brought to you by Dexatron and To Try Hard Ray. And Short Bus versus YE Snowfall to close out the season will be brought to you by Shadow Fang and Joker's Ransom. So yeah, congratulations to everybody on a season well done. And we hope to see y'all in the chat here tonight. And of course, cannot forget about the GOATS tournament. This season is of course coming to a close, but CGL continues to roll. January 4th through the 12th. Signups are open now. Go get that done, of course. South America coming in to CGL for the first time. Gonna get them rolling. Gonna have a lot of fun with that. But now, that's gonna do it here. We've got a sweep. 2 sweeps, I guess, in this EU side of the grand finals day. 2 more matches to come. Thank you all for watching, and we hope to see y'all in the next one, and we hope to see y'all next season.